Good morning, I'm Josh Ellsworth with Stahls TV and welcome to this morning's presentation, How to Decorate for Spring Legs. Appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Stahls TV, and as always, we'll have a moderator close by to the computer, and if you have questions throughout the session today, feel free to chat those in and we'll do our best to respond. We have a jam-packed presentation today, about 45 minutes in total, where we're going to attempt to teach you how to customize for spring leagues with a focus particularly on baseball. We're going to go over a little bit about design and best practices for setting up rosters with cadworkslive.com. We're going to talk a little bit about cutting different materials, even designing athletic tails and welding together script, and ultimately heat applying your finished decoration and getting the most cost-effective way to customize a jersey with a name and number. And so to kick things off, I think we'll dive right into the CADWorks Live software because it all starts with art. So basically, as a Stahls customer or Transfer Express customer, you have free access to cadworkslive.com. You can see the website right in the top of the screen in the URL bar there. It's cadworkslive.com. And when you log into the system, you have the ability to design in the Design Studio or the Easy Teams. Now, if you're a regular Stahls TV viewer, you may have seen that there's also a complete tutorial on the CADWorks Live Design Studio creating artwork for Spiritwear that's happening this evening. It's not too late to register at stahlstv.com. So what I want to show you here is when we launch the Easy Teams, basically this is where you're going to do the majority of your name and number art creation. So if you're cutting this yourself with a vinyl cutter, which is one of the most popular ways to personalize team uniforms, you can fully create the roster as well as the numbers in here, and it's very simple. You just type in the name that you would like, and you also type in the number combo. It'll instantly generate a player name and number combo that you can do a font change, a size change, an effect change on, and ultimately cut on your vinyl cutter. The beautiful thing about this system is not only can you create your combos in your list, but I can apply effects to an entire list at once. So what I'll try to do here is just come up with some names to customize here to show you how that works. So I can get my full list of names and numbers, and you can see that all of these items are selected in my list, and I can have a max of 100 items that I can type in or import in. Once you've created these combos, I can go over to the style, and I can apply a name style to the entire roster at once, or a number style. So let's just go to apply number style. There's some quick styles that you can choose from, or you can create your own custom style, but it's a simple click. So if I like this particular style, I open it, it will apply to every number in the roster, as you can see. Now, if I'm unhappy with that particular style and perhaps want to do a font change, I can click on Edit Number Style instead. So rather than applying a quick style, I can edit and create a completely custom style. So if perhaps I don't want the font to be Arial, I want it to be more of an athletic font, I can go in there. There's a lot of fonts already loaded into the system. Popular Stahls fonts are already in the system for you. I can just simply toggle through and select the one that I like. So let's go back, let's select Pro Block, open that up. It will maintain the drop shadow effect on the number as well. As you can see here, I'm customizing and creating an 8-inch number. It has the fill color. If I want to change the fill color, I can do that with the click of a button. I can also click on the drop shadow and edit the specifics of the drop shadow. Or if I don't like the shadow, I can remove it altogether. Adding a new effect perhaps that could be a contour or an outline around the number. Once again, doing a color change and creating everything on the fly. Once I'm completely happy, I click OK and cancel out of the font menu, and you can see it's applied to the complete set of numbers that are in my roster. Consequently, I can do the same. I can edit the name style. This is the quickest, easiest way to customize. If I want a matching font for the name style, I'll simply go back and let's go find that Pro Block font again. Let me go back to the athletic styles is where I was and click on Pro Block. Open that up and it creates it. Now I can change my size here, so if I want it to be 2.5 inches instead of 2 inches tall, I can do that. If I want a little more character spacing in between my letters, I can add some additional character spacing. I can add an effect here, but let's just go with a single color. Let me put a little arch on this as well. You can change the height of the arch if I want a little bit more. Let's make it 2.5-inch arch instead of a 2-inch. Click OK, and once again, it applies to every name in the whole roster. Now, I probably would want to colorize this name to match one of the colors in the number, so let's just change that to red. Click OK, and I've completed it. So once again, building out the whole list of combinations. Once you complete that, you're happy with the style, you can effectively save the name or the number style so it can become a quick style moving forward. So if I like that Pro Block font that's a 2-color with that offset, save that style and it'll be easy for me to apply moving forward. And this is only saved under your login on cadworkslive.com. I can also go into options. This will allow me to edit the name and number gap. This is the distance between the bottom of the name and the very top of the number. So for instance, if I were decorating a jersey where I needed a 1.5-inch gap space, I can easily type that in. It will pre-space it for me, so when I cut it and get ready to apply, I won't have any issues with layout. Now, something else that you'll notice here is that there's a lot of wasted space if I'm cutting this on demand, and we know that there is cost involved with every square inch of material that you utilize. So I always recommend perhaps putting this at 0.2 just to give it enough space for you to run scissors in between the name and the number and doing a manual layout over at the heat press, perhaps with the laser alignment tool. In the long haul, after you're customizing a bunch of jerseys, you'll end up saving cost. You can also set up a global width constraint here. And so basically what that means, if I'm decorating a certain available layout space on the garment that I'm printing, I may want to restrain the whole width, let's say, to 12.5 inches as my print area. And it will constrain all the names to make sure that they fit within that 12.5-inch area. So that's just an option. It's global, which means it applies to the whole list. Now, if I had a specific width constraint that I had to worry about, I can actually take this back to 0, and if I know Kaczynski is going on to a youth small jersey that can only fit 10 inches, then I can just constrain per combination, and that'll only constrain that one on the list. So just a nice quick way to change it. Let's make it 8 inches so you can get a better visual on it, and you can see how it shrunk down the name to make sure it fits across 8 inches on that particular jersey style. So just really a lot of tools and functionality here to create. And ultimately, once we've created, I can click on Output. I can save that roster list while I build new ones, or I can just export to Vector Cut, which effectively takes it over to my software to output to the cutter. So if I have a, let's say a 20-inch wide roll of thermofilm, and I have at least 1 yard on the roll, I can click OK. It will download that to my bottom toolbar, and then I'm effectively opening it right within Vector Cut. And you can see I have all my combinations. It's separated by color. And now if I have the red material loaded, I can select the red layer, make sure to mirror my designs, and then I can work to lay them out across the 20-inch wide piece of material. So just some different options there. You can grab individual components, you can double click on them, you can rotate them, and sort of nest these across the material in the best way you see fit. It might make sense to put Kaczynski and Jones beside each other on a layer. Can't fit anything else with Ellsworth, and then sort of lay out this whole piece to send over to the cutter, best utilizing the material. And Vector Cut will drive the most popular cutters out there. So if you don't have a cut driver that you're happy with, CADWorks and Vector Cut is a great option. Allows you to separate by layer and really manually nest stuff to make sure that you're making efficient utilization of material as you're outputting to your vinyl cutter. So for those of you with questions, please continue to chat those in. Joe's doing his best to keep up here with any questions you may have, and if for some reason he can't answer something, what we'll do is we'll post those on the Stahls TV forum, and our experts will come by and ask those. Let's jump back just for a second, because I want to show you a little bit more about this Easy Teams module. Okay, and so we've created player combos from scratch. Another powerful thing is, I don't know about you, but I don't always spell stuff right when you're trying to translate over, 100 different names on a team. But you can now put the burden of the spelling on the customer or the league. And so this is a great option where I can go to the start menu when I first launch Easy Teams, and I can actually import a roster from a text file, meaning your customer or the athletic director can provide you a Word document of all the list of names, and I can click import, and I can go and grab that file. So in this case, I've saved one as a roster sample. Click OK to append to existing, which means it's going to drop them to the existing list I've already added. And you can see it drops in the whole roster that was in that text file. And the beautiful thing is it maintains the font and the format. The only thing you have to do is assign the color. This particular roster list just had names because we know that the most cost-effective way to really create team uniform combinations is to use a pre-cut number, to not cut the number yourself if you're utilizing a stock font like Pro Block or Varsity, and just to cut your name to match. Even when we looked over into vector cut and we look at this red layer, there's still a fair amount of waste in here. Okay, if we go and just do a roster list, so let me just delete sort of the combinations here. If I would take this, just a list of names, and then output those to vector cut and open them, you'll see much efficient material utilization. Now it didn't bring the names. It's not a glitch. I made a mistake. Let me go back and show you. It's not going to send them because it's only sending the selected names, and I didn't have them selected. So let me select that whole list again and do output one more time. Now it'll actually take the names with it, and then I can basically apply a rotation here, because I know I'm going to be able to effectively use the material if I rotate these, and then I can start to nest and group those. And now you start to see all the material savings when you nest these up, just leaving room to travel the scissors in between the names. And so really the most cost-effective way, even from a material utilization standpoint as well as a number cost standpoint, would be to cut your names and then ultimately order the pre-cut numbers. So quick, easy way to do that. One last thing before we leave Easy Teams, under the Start menu, there's a lot you can do in here. You can create just numbers. So I know a lot of leagues now are just going with the number, especially for rec leagues, so they can reuse the jerseys year after year and they're not personalizing with the name. So you can create player numbers right here. So if I want number 1 to 20 for the rec league, and you know what, I also want number 50 and number 99 for the coaches, you can type them in the format that you see here in the example, and then you click OK, and it will effectively generate that whole list for you, maintaining that font and format that I've already built previously with my number combinations. All I have to do at that point is edit the colors or the effect for the whole roster. So it's a great way to quickly create numbers. You see it did my 1 through 20, the number 50, and the number 99 to give me all of my sets. You can also do team sponsors. Perhaps there's a sponsor for that. Maybe it's, Joe's AutoZone, and there were 22 people on that particular team. I click OK, and it will drop Joe's AutoZone 22 times on that list, and I can change everything about it. If I ever have some combinations as well as some numbers and I only want to change sort of one piece of it, you can just select the items that you want to change, and then always when you say edit style of selected items, there's a quick and an easy way to do that. So simply click all of them. A few more to grab here. I go to option or style, edit name style of selected items, and now when I apply the change that, I don't want this arched anymore. I would like to add an effect, and let's say an envelope effect like this. Click OK, and it drops to every single one on the list, and then you can adjust character spacing or anything you want to from there. So quick, easy, Just like it's called, Easy Team's a great way to create name and number combinations. You can save rosters, you can output, very easy to work with. So we've pre-cut some names, so we're going to come back out on camera here, and I'm going to head over to the heat press. And show you a little bit about how to customize here with just your standard t-shirt. This is very popular for spring leagues and little leagues. A standard t-shirt is often the selection instead of a jersey. We're even seeing growth in performance t-shirts, but what I'd recommend is just load the t-shirt onto your press. I'm trying to stand to the side here so you can get a good view. I'm going to do a quick preheat. Make sure I adjust my pressure for the particular platen that I have loaded. All of these Hotronics presses do give you a pressure readout, which makes life easier. Swing away my press, and now let me switch to an overhead cam here. There we go. And show you how a layout may work in this instance, and also pre-cuts. So we're getting a little bit creative here with our number style as I grab them off the table. And so what we've done here is we've cut a roster of names, and so I can position my name up front. This is how most sporting goods shops and all the big players would do it. And then I can position my number. Now this is a new style of pre-cut numbers from Stahls. It's called interactive numbers, so you can actually get to where you have a left and a right digit, and they sort of have the effect where they envelope in or out, and you can mix these up. You can do a left and a right depending on how you want the style to look. You can completely customize. So perhaps this is 39 and not 93. I can actually look like it's enveloping out from the center to give me that sort of 3D effect. So you can get a laser alignment system to position in place a little bit quicker, but ultimately all I want to do is get this onto my garment, knowing that each digit costs me about 35 cents. The name costs me less than a quarter. I want to make sure I have the right side of the number up. You'll notice a little bit glossier side to the number, and this is thermofilm, the #1 athletic material for jerseys and uniform numbering. Works great on a t-shirt too. Presses at 330 degrees. For 6 to 8 seconds. It's very fast and easy, and it's a hot peel. So basically I can pump out these designs and keep jobs moving throughout the shop at a very quick rate. Now if I would have happened to cut something for the front of this jersey, which we're going to go back over to CADWorks and do, I can spin the shirt directly on the press and get to the front, which makes it very quick and easy, and now it's prepared for me to cut something and apply to the front of the jersey. So just as a quick review, the combinations, very cost effective. You can buy the particular font and the number size you want and the color you want in kits or packs, depending on how you want to order it. You can get 300 plus piece kit, so you're all set up with your white varsity and pro block numbers, or you can get as little as 10 pieces depending on the font. And Stahls, one of the sponsors of course of Stahls TV, is running some great specials here for the month of February, where it's 10% off pre-cut numbers in thermofilm, so a great option for that. Let's jump back onto the camera for a moment, or to the computer for a moment. So we're still in CADWorks Live, but now we're going to go over to our Design Studio portion. And the Design Studio is where we're going to create one of the most popular applications that we see in spring, which is an athletic tail. Not a big mystery on how to create an athletic tail. It's very easy. When you launch the CADWorks Design Studio, you can click the athletic tails. It will open up a variety of script with tails, all the options that are in the system, and basically you select what you want. So in this case, let's pick this particular style. Let's go with something that's connected here. Open that up, and it's going to default to a standard name and a standard tail. Now of course, this particular team is not the Athletics. We're going to change it. This particular team is the Raiders. It will update for you. I can click OK. And the nice thing is the same name is going on the front of all the jerseys. So I'm going to select all of this. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to do my best to make sure the end of this S is connecting cleanly to the tail without a bump or anything like that. And now if I put on my cutter goggles, or what I call the wireframe mode, you can see that there's actually some overlapping areas. Also, we can see there's intended to be some stars in the actual tail itself. Actually, I don't really want those, so we'll see if those come out in the welding process or I have to delete those. So I'm going to select the tail holding the control key. I'm also going to select my custom text, and then I'm going to do something called weld that will smooth out all of those extra cut pieces. So you want to make sure you have your font selected, your text customized, and then you can weld the two pieces together. And so it welded all of that. It got rid of the stars in the tail, and then ultimately let's go back out of the wireframe view, and I have a completed piece that's ready to cut. Now at this point, let me zoom out. You want to size your design in the program. So I know that I want this to be, let's just say 12 inches across the front of that jersey. Don't really care about the height, just 12 inches is the width that I want it to be. Once I create that, I can save it. So let's just save this as Raiders, that way I can pull it up next year when they want it again. And then I can send it to vector cut, ultimately to cut on my vinyl cutter. So it downloads it. I open that, and now it's in vector cut, allowing me to program my material width, mirror the image, and make multiple copies. But in this case, we're only going to cut one. So at this point, I want to make sure that I have communication with the cutter. So there's a couple different ways, a couple different things I have to do. Let's switch back out and go over to the cutter. And I have a roll of thermofilm that I have from the back of the cutter. I'm just going to drop that into the back, which just has a stand assembly that you can load the roll on. And I'm just going to feed the material through the cutter. Now something that you may see is there's these pinch rollers that have to lock down on the edge of the material. So I'm going to slide those to both edges of the material, making sure they stay under these blue alignment marks that you may be able to see there. Once I have that into place, I'm going to lock it down and tell the machine that I have a roll loaded in and ask it to find the front edge. Now this cutter is actually cutting with a blade. Actually, somebody had some job pending here, so let me quit that, clear it out. It's cleared, and let me retract that back to the beginning of the roll again. Sometimes if you have a job stuck in queue and the cutter comes on, it will start processing that job if you didn't cancel it out. So we must have had a mistake there. So let's do, what I really wanted to get to was a test cut here. So I'm going to hit the, I've changed it to the thermofilm option on the cutter, which is basically 18 on the force to cut for the thickness of the material. And I'm going to go into the test menu and do what's called a test cut. It'll cut a little square and a triangle, and I'm basically going to lift the edge up and peel it away. And basically the goal is you want the square to peel away and you want the triangle to stay on the material. So since it started cutting something, I have a little bit of off cuts over here, so I'm going to start the point of origin a little bit to the right of that and just make sure I have enough material space. So I'll set my origin, and it's telling me that I have about 13 inches, which should be sufficient to send. So just stay patient with me for 1 second, and I'm going to send that cut job. So if you notice some dead airspace there on the mic, it's because I had to run and go find my weeding tool that was in the next room over. And you might hear the cutter sort of pouncing a little bit, and basically that's because I've put it in a mode called tangential emulation, and that's lifting the blade holder up as it's completing corners. And that really, on thicker materials like thermofilm or glitter flake, it slows the cutter down slightly, but it gives me a lot cleaner cut, and it's really going to speed me up in the manual part of the process, which is weeding. You can buy rolls of material from CAD Cut Direct. You can get color swatches on our website, which is Stahls.com, and basically that'll give you small little color samples that you can go out and showcase teams as you're trying to get their uniform business this spring. But there's a wide variety of colors that you can source and set up with in any of the different products. As I mentioned earlier, thermofilm is one of our best sellers because it's great for athletic team uniforms, but in addition to thermofilm, there's options for, they're a little bit lighter weight, there's also options for performance wear if you have any sort of heat sensitive fabrics that can't be applied at the 330 degrees that thermofilm requires. But since this one's going to a t-shirt, it's just fine. Basically, I just fed the material out past the design, and I'm going to slide a razor across here to trim off my design. And then I'm actually going to take it over to the heat press where we can get a bit of a close-up to weed it away. So let me switch to my camera here. So we put a weed border around the design. Basically gives us somewhere to start lifting. When cut properly, it should weed without lifting, especially on larger designs like this. Even small designs, if you take the proper steps when cutting, shouldn't be an issue at all. Obviously, it helps to get a visual of your design when you're weeding, especially if you're giving it to somebody else to weed that didn't design it, because they'll be a lot quicker if they have a point of reference for what you've created. So I'm just glancing back on my computer and see that there should be these couple little stripes here in the athletic tail that gives it a little more design style that I need to peel away. And then ultimately, once I remove this outside edge, I'm ready to press it. Now, if you had a big piece on this outside edge, you could certainly save it as scraps. To me, I don't think that piece is worth it. Rather just peel it off quickly and throw it in the garbage and move on. But if you have a big enough piece that you can fit like a sleeve graphic or a small logo, you could certainly save it. So once again, over at the heat press, I haven't heat pressed and preheated this yet, so I'm going to preheat the front of my shirt for the 4 seconds after I spun it around. And now I'm going to position my athletic tail. And press it for the 6 to 8 seconds. And peel the carrier. It does not require a second hit. Now, thermofilm by nature sort of has a semi-gloss sort of sheen to it, so you could always cover this with a craft paper and finish it for an extra step if you prefer. But ultimately, we've customized a complete Little League jersey where we have the player name and pre-cut numbers on back, and then we've customized an athletic tail for the front. And the beautiful thing here is now we're talking on demand. So we're not having to create these right away and really stock a whole bunch. We're cutting on demand based on the player. There's no individual alignment of digits for a name. And so we'll keep you over here at the heat press because I have some other stuff prepared, sort of in the same family, because I want to talk a little bit about some of the trends for spring legs. One of those is this digital camo pattern, and we're seeing a lot more of this sort of sweep across the nation, being driven really from the collegiate market. And you can get these sublimated. This one's actually from Augusta or Beaumark, and it's roller printed. And so If this were sublimated, I'd have crazy dye migration issues. It would be really tough to stand up against for any material. And basically what that means is that the pattern would bleed effectively through my print, regardless of, unless I put black or a very dark color on here. But by sourcing it from Augusta, I get this roller printed garment, which, although it will bleed, it's not nearly as nasty as the sublimation. And so that allows me to put a product like thermofilm that inhibits dyes from bleeding. It won't block sublimation dyes, but it'll inhibit enough that this roller printed garment won't bleed through. So it gives me an opportunity to capitalize and decorate on trends like this, knowing that thermofilm will stick to cotton or polyester. Now I can take forward that good, better, best philosophy, whether it's for the Cardinals, the Raiders, whatever team it might be. I can show them, hey, here's a basic t-shirt, but perhaps you may want to upgrade your look this year to this digital camo look. And we can do that for you here with the confidence that it won't bleed. Once again, same steps. I'm just going to spin, get to the back of the shirt, always using a cover sheet. Anytime I'm dealing with a pattern garment, it's just better safe than sorry getting that transferring to your heat press and applying to the next shirt. Always preheating to get the excess moisture or any treatment that might be there. Dropping my pre-cut number. Putting my name, making sure I have a reasonable gap distance in between. Some people like to use a laser alignment system. Some people just like to keep a T-square or a ruler nearby for layout. But all in all, it takes a matter of seconds to place that, whether it's single or double digit. Cover and press. If you don't have a vinyl cutter, you can also get the names pre-cut from Stahls and just order player names. If you don't want to lay out individual numbers, you can get the complete combination cut by Stahls. So there are literally, probably 100 different ways to customize a team uniform. We just wanted to show you the most cost-effective way if you're really looking to make maximum margin on your team uniforms. So, really cool look, very quick, very easy to do. So we're going to jump back out here, and I'm going to finish cutting some Premium Plus and talking a little bit about where you may need to utilize that product. So when you look at everything we've done so far, we've used thermofilm, and it would be great if you could just stock one product and do absolutely everything you wanted to do. But sometimes your customer wants a lighter weight finish, or sometimes you have a heat-sensitive item that may show a scorch mark up at thermofilm's application of 330 degrees. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut that same athletic tail, that Raiders design, out of a material Premium Plus that has a lower temp adhesive, 280 degrees, that will give you the ability to decorate some of these heat-sensitive items. So we'll move right over to the cutter. I'm going to swap out rolls. Take my thermofilm out. I have a roll nearby of Premium Plus. Another trend for spring sports that we're seeing is lots of neon colors in numbering. And so we're going to use our neon yellow or like a safety green type material. Load that on. Now Premium Plus is about half of the thickness of thermofilm. Therefore, I need to adjust my cutter accordingly. So I'm just going to slide it down. So I'm going to move the pinch rollers because we're dealing now with a wider roll of material. I'm going to lock it into place and still tell it to find the front of the roll. Now I'm going to go and do a quick adjustment of my downforce, which is in the menu screen. And I know it's a little bit tough to see this, but on stahlstv.com we have full tutorials on how to adjust all of these settings. The particular cutter that I'm using, if you don't own a cutter, is the Graphtec CE6000, and I highly recommend it if you're looking for a cutter for your business. So I'm going to take a peek here and see if we have Premium Plus loaded in this one. If not, we'll do it on demand. So I do have fashion film, so I'm going to start with that because I know that's another thin film that we have. It's programmed at a force of an 8, so let me do a quick test cut here and see how that looks at an 8 force. Pretty close. I'm going to try it one more time. I'm going to bump the force up to a 9 because it picked up just slightly. And let me do another test cut. This test cut process is pretty simple. You just basically knock out test cuts until you get accuracy, and then you're ready to run the complete job. Once again, with the goal being that little triangle staying behind there. And so once you have that set up, you can decide, you know, do I want to put my point of origin to the left of the test cut or up from it? In the case of where you're cutting just one image, I usually like to program the point of origin just to the left of the test cut. That way it's cutting across the material. Ultimately, sending that same cut job to the cutter as I mentioned earlier. I'll pass in front of the camera there and start to load my shirt to save us some time. And then my press is still at 330. I doubt I get the 280 in time, but we'll give it a whirl. Either way, you'll get the concept. It'll still apply. It just may scorch the garment slightly if you're not down at the right temperature. Okay, now that that's concluded, I'm going to feed it out to find the edge. I usually like to bend the material a bit, and that helps you see the cut lines and where the edge is. And then I'll retract it back to where I'm going to drag this razor once again across the material. And then we'll take it over to our overhead cam on the heat press. And we'll weed away the excess. Give you a close-up view of it. Once again, this is Premium Plus. A little stretchier, but still fairly easy to weed. Especially in the neon colors, they seem to be a little easier because of the white-based adhesive. So you're just removing the excess. Taking your weeding tool, and we have a whole bunch of weeding tips on Stahls TV, but one tip is stacking up your scraps on the weeding tool before you clean it off will just help you sort of speed through. And then we're going to go out to our main cam and pull it over here. So things do happen, and this is happening now. So we have the camera, our overhead cam, just ran out of batteries. No big deal. I'll finish up this weeding right here for you, and then we'll trim this design up. We're almost done anyways, and you get the concept, I think. We are going to save this a little bit larger scrap piece this time because we can cut that later and apply it for another logo. And then sometimes it's easier just to trim away the excess instead of peeling it all. So I'll trim away where we did our little test cut lines, and then I'll just grab my weeding tool to finish up. Now, effectively, I still need to preheat this garment, so I'm going to grab my cover sheet, cover the garment, conduct a preheat. Now Premium Plus, 280 degrees, 8 seconds, and it's a warm peel. So I'm going to position the design down onto the shirt. You may notice how I have the buttons, if you can see that, sort of hanging off the edge to give me that nice free pressing area. Also, I've threaded this garment, so when I spin to print the back, if I were to cut numbers, the beautiful thing about that, I'm not going to get print through in these buttons sort of indenting the back of the shirt where the name or the number would go across. Those buttons would effectively be hanging off the back of the press when I go to print it. So now that you're a little closer, I'll cover this up with a cover sheet, and we'll press it for our recommended settings. I'm at 313 degrees, so just know that this should be at 280. But I don't want you to wait 15 minutes while the press cools down. That's not very exciting. Give it the 8 seconds, and then it's going to be a warm peel. So just basically pause and peel. Give it about a 5-second lag here. Then I'm going to peel the carrier off. And Joe, if you can give a zoom there, I'll sort of elevate it so folks can see, but you can see it just really, the neons just jump off of there. And I know you can't feel through the screen, but know that this is very soft, very flexible, very stretchable, and that's where really where Premium Plus stands out. And if we stay there, just to illustrate the concept, when you're printing team uniforms, threadability is always key, because when I load that, if we just bring the camera angle down a little bit, you'll see all of these buttons that would normally print through the shirt are off of the press. That is much better than sliding a pillow inside of this. While you could slide a pillow inside of this, when you start doing that, you still have the issue of some excess seams and buttons that could print through. It's much better to have all of those hanging beneath and have that nice print surface for your garment. So, plenty of opportunities in decorating for spring sports. So, what I would recommend is if you don't have a vinyl cutter, you really seriously should consider getting one. You can pull your cost of a name down about 80% for you to cut it yourself versus ordering it pre-cut. You can also do things on demand immediately. It's undoubtedly that one player is going to come back and need an add-on jersey. The coach is going to come back and say, oh, we got one more, we got 2 more players. And so by having the material and the cutter in-house, you're able to turn those without having to commit to a minimum quantity. That's also why we recommend having these boxes of numbers in-house where you can basically stock a full box of white numbers or royal or red numbers and be able to print them on demand cost effectively. So hopefully this has inspired you, given you some new ideas about vinyl cutters. Threadable heat presses are important, a stock of pre-cut numbers, and having the ability to cut on demand and create within CADWorks. I'm Josh Ellsworth with Stahls TV. Thanks for watching.